Right. Well, and you described earlier, and I think this is worth revisiting. I mean, we're going to revisit the Sam Harris or even the postmodern critique. And so, because it's quite interesting that Sam and the postmodernists do the same thing, which is, how do you know you're not just imposing your arbitrary interpretation on a set of stories? And then how do you know that your arbitrary interpretation just doesn't serve your need and motive for the expression of power? And those are good questions. But you can't rush right to the answer that all interpretation is nothing but the self-serving imposition of power, and it's all arbitrary except at the behest of your whim. Jesus, that's definitely throwing out the baby with the bathwater, and it's a very simplistic interpretation.
You could say the same about science, too. I mean, anyone who claims to have a theory about reality, you could say, how do you know it's not just in your head? I mean, you could say that about anything. The answer is the same. How do you know? You experiment and you prove that your ideas and your theories are explain the phenomenon. It's the same thing in a story. If you say this is all about a certain pattern, that's like your theory. Well, I can prove it to you. I'll read the story and I'll show you that it's always an expression of this pattern. So you prove it in exactly the same way as science proves its theories.
Now, as I said concerning faith, that it was not a perfect knowledge, even so it is with my words. Ye cannot know of their surety at first unto perfection, any more than faith is a perfect knowledge. But behold, if ye will awake and arouse your faculties, even to an experiment upon my words, even if ye can no more than desire to believe, let this desire work in you, even until ye believe in a manner that ye can give place for a portion of my words.
You can also prove it the same way that Kierkegaard and the existentialists insisted. And I would say this is basically an act of faith, which is you can take the pattern and you can act it out in the world. You can use it to govern your perceptions and to rule your actions, and then you can see what happens in your life.
Now we will compare the word unto a seed. Now, if ye give place that a seed may be planted in your heart, behold, if it be a true seed, or a good seed, it will begin to swell within your breasts. And when you feel these swelling motions, ye will begin to say within yourselves, it must needs be that this is a good seed, or that the word is good, for it beginneth to enlarge my soul, yea, it beginneth to enlighten my understanding, yea, it beginneth to be delicious to me.
And I think a lot of the injunction in the Bible in relationship to faith isn't the command to accept a certain description of reality at the propositional level, but to act in accordance with this divine cosmology, and then to see the manifestation of that. That's the fruits, right, by which the tree is known, to see the manifestation of that decision to act and perceive in that manner in the world.
And now, behold, because ye have tried the experiment, and planted the seed, and it swelleth and sprouteth, and beginneth to grow, ye must needs know that the seed is good. O then, is this not real? I say unto you, yea, because it is light. And whatsoever is light is good, because it is discernible. Therefore, ye must know that it is good.
And that is a fundamental test, and I do think that's something that has to be done at the level of the individual. That's definitely something that Kierkegaard stressed immensely, and that people like Solzhenitsyn and Jung and Dostoevsky, for that matter, also insisted upon. Not that there's not a communal element, right? Because we need to strive to do that together, to manifest our individual responsibility. But fundamentally, the test is pragmatic and almost like an engineering test, which is take the story, act it out, and stress test it. See if it helps you overcome the insuperable obstacle, and see if it protects you from nihilism and despair, and see if it orients you properly in relationship to yourself and other people, and see what it does with your relationship with women and with children and with your parents. And you can test the story that way. And as far as I can tell, the Bible is the compilation of stories that have been tested in that way.
Yes, exactly. Yes, you can test it within the text to know if your interpretation of the text makes sense within the text. And like you said, that's even a higher level. I would say you could test it with reality, and then it's another story. And if you know the Bible very well and you understand the stories, you might start to discover that the patterns that are described in the Bible are also happening to you all the time, whether you want it or not, by the way.
Yes, well, this is something Jung pointed out. He said, look, whether you know it or not, you're in the grips of a myth. And he meant a story. And you better figure out what the myth is, because it might not have the ending you want.
But if ye neglect the tree, and take no thought for its nourishment, behold, it will not get any root. And when the heat of the sun cometh and scorcheth it, because it hath no root, it withers away, and ye pluck it up and cast it out. Now, this is not because the seed was not good, neither is it because the fruit thereof would not be desirable, but it is because your ground is barren, and ye will not nourish the tree. Therefore ye cannot have the fruit thereof. And thus, if ye will not nourish the word, looking forward with an eye of faith to the fruit thereof, ye can never pluck of the fruit of the tree of life.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you want more content, including the podcast, go to thoughtful-faith.com. Thanks for watching.